Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy C. Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Marty Van Ravensway, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Reverend Stephen Drake from Christ Memorial Baptist Church in Hurst, Texas. Thank you for coming out today. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, we thank you for waking us up this morning, for watching over us last night as we slept. We thank you for yesterday's blessings, for yesterday's guidance throughout the day. But this new day, Lord, we invite you in for all the proceedings of this court, of this commission. Father, for reports that will be done, contracts examined, and all else that will be done for this great district and this city. Father, we do love you. We praise you. We invite you in to lead and guide us as these men and women conduct your business for your city and your state. It's in Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Sounds so much better than years ago when we started.
Thank you, Reverend Drake. Appreciate you being here today. Mr. Manius?
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the court, we have two announcements relating to today's agenda. Both of these announcements are under Human Services. There'll be 9G 1 and 2. We're going to ask that we're asking that we hold those two items. We'll have them back on the agenda within a week or so. Also, members of the court, something for next week under briefing, we are going to be talking to the court a little bit about some of the revenue projections that we've seen so far as it relates to the upcoming fiscal year. Get that in front of you. Also, maybe some recommendations as we go forward. I know that we're currently in budget meetings with the budget department and the various other departments within the county getting ready for the court's budget hearings in August. We would like to get some guidance from you, and we'll start having those conversations with you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Court members, you have before you the minutes of our regular meeting of May the 11th.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Okay. Motion passes unanimously. Just 1 week out of the deal and just a little slow in the uptake there.
We slowed this court down a lot.
We did. You slowed it down a lot.
Yeah.
I did watch the video. And that kind of, I'm going to take a point of personal privilege. Last week I did have an opportunity to do what I think was kind of a once-in-a-lifetime type deal. There were 10 of us from this area who were, I guess probably 6 to 9 months ago, we had a reception for out at the Naval Air Reserve Station for one of the regional admirals with the Navy, and in the course of that conversation it was mentioned the fact that from time to time they would invite folks to come to San Diego, basically get yourself to San Diego and then report to North Island, and then they would fly you from there onto an aircraft carrier and allow you to spend a day and a night and then half of the next day on that carrier observing operations, and then they would fly you off the aircraft carrier via catapult. And it was a quick landing and a quick takeoff. And so I had an opportunity with 10 other folks from this area and about 4 from around the country, and we went to the USS Lincoln. And so that's a picture of the Lincoln, and then I have a couple of when we landed, the Admiral, that's the plane that we actually went out on. A couple of observations. One, there ain't no windows. And we all were a little concerned about that, and their response was, if there were windows, all you would see is a bunch of water, and then for about 1 second, if you were looking out the window, you might see the flat top that you were going to land on. But then you stop, and you're there. So this was the plane we went out on. We all sat backwards, You face to the back as you go out. And then once we landed, we went in and we spoke with the captain and the admiral. And the admiral's comment is that, you know, for doing this, we only asked two things. One, we asked that you talk about your experience. And then the second thing was that if you come across an 18, 19-year-old who may not quite know what they want to do with their lives, that you suggest to them that they might consider the Navy for 4 years. This is, I'm going to show you just a couple of videos. This is one, obviously, from above the flight deck.
Is that you running?
No, they wouldn't let me anywhere past. They had a little red line. We were on the flight deck, and you'll watch the guy over there looks like he's in the ocean with one arm up right now. He's the guy who actually pushes the catapult button. The guy in the yellow is what they call the shooter. The catapult's at the front end, and in the back side of the wheel, they've got a little thing that holds down as the plane, and it shoots it off there at about, the catapult will take you from 0 to about 180 miles per hour in about 2 seconds. Obviously, not only do they send them off, but here comes the plane in that they catch. We're right there on the deck with them, and you'll see the little white thing is the wire. There's 4 wires. They're trained to catch the third wire.
The third one?
The third one. He caught the third one on that one, and when they stop right there, he's about 30 feet from the end of the boat.
Why wouldn't he get the first one?
Well, you know, they just said the third one was the ideal wire, and you got to remember this thing's going up and down, and even the carrier moves up and down a little bit, and so you really don't want to be trying to be low enough to catch that first one because you might catch
The plane, I mean the ship.
the ship. Now, we actually had one that missed all 4. And when they land full throttle. So, in effect, when he hit the deck and didn't catch, he went right back up because he was at full throttle. But it is amazing. Literally, the first time we went out, we saw the flight operations probably 4 times, 3 of them during the day, and then we were able to observe the night operations too. And it's unbelievable. When we were right on the flight deck, I mean, literally, we were probably about 15 to 20 feet from the edge of the plane as it was being catapulted off and then caught when it's coming back in. So that part was just unbelievable to watch how everybody works together as a team. And I think that's the other part of the deal. As the Admiral explained, there are 11 of those nuclear aircraft carriers. And at any point in time, one of them is in dry dock having everything redone. Their life on these things are about 50 years. And so the Vinson just came out of dry dock and went to Haiti to help with the relief effort. In addition to basically being our front line out in in other countries from a defense or from an offensive standpoint, they also provide a lot of humanitarian type deal. But so there's 11, there's 10 what we call air squadrons that man these because there is always one inside. There's 5 on the East Coast, 5 on the West Coast. Lincoln is actually stationed up in Washington. We were the next to the last group of folks invited to come out. They were the next day leaving to come back to San Diego to let the planes and all were going to Fallon, and then they were going to go on up to home port in Washington, and then in about 60 days they will leave for deployment to the Middle East. And then they'll be on deployment in the Middle East for somewhere around 6 months from that standpoint. The average age, there's 5,500 people on this aircraft carrier. So we have cities in Tarrant County that are actually smaller than the number of folks on this aircraft carrier. The average age is probably 19 to 20 years old. And to watch these kids work together and to really come together and work as a team gives you a whole new confidence in what I would call definitely our younger generation. And back to a little bit about what I said about if you do know somebody who's 18, 19-year-old, not sure, if you go in to the Navy and you sign up for a 4-year term, you go through it and come out with an honorable discharge, the Navy will basically pay for your schooling. And in addition to that, they will give you what is called an E5 or a second-class petty officer stipend for the time that you're going to school. So certainly in this economic times, it is something that should be attractive to young folks who are looking for something and looking for direction. And we got to see really be all over the boat. And people said, well, no, it's a ship. It's not a boat. Well, they call it a boat. And so if they call it a boat, I'm going to call it a boat. And the captain was real clear to call it a boat. The captain is from Texas, actually graduated from Texas Tech. Well, there was a few Aggies on the trip, and there were a few. It was a old Southwest Conference type deal, Big 12. The other unique part about this was that on here, your Master Chief Petty Officer is the highest ranking enlisted person. Above that, you then go into the officers' ranks. This was held by a lady from the Midwest, and she was just unbelievable to talk to. She is one of 4 who have reached this position in the Navy. And we had an opportunity one night to eat with the officers, and then our breakfast was actually in the Chief Petty Officer's mess, and then then we had a lunch with the pilots, with some of the pilots off the deal. And it was very exciting. It was very interesting and inspiring, really, to talk with the kids because they gave us plenty of opportunities to talk with folks, as well as opportunities to talk with the officers, and both on the naval side and on the air side of the deal. They definitely have a different perspective. While we were there, one of them, as I said, missed all 4 wires, and when we went down for the pilot briefing the next day, we asked about that, and they said, well, that particular pilot will take a lot of razzing for some period of time because they rank every time they land. They have it recorded exactly which wire they caught and everything from that standpoint. So it was pretty exciting to have that opportunity to be a part of that. And again, it did give me a great deal of confidence in our young folks and in our military and the role that they play. One other thing just came to mind. Basically, as I mentioned, the Vinson went to Haiti. These carriers generate 400,000 gallons of fresh water every day. So it is amazing just what happens and what goes on as we go through that process. So I've got a bunch more pictures. You just saw a couple of them today, but it was one of those priceless deals, and so I appreciate Commissioner Johnson, y'all taking care of court and you moving it right along last week.
For all your assistance on that.
Well, we did have a good time. Isn't that right, Commissioner? Indeed, we did.
Yeah, I watched the video, and I did get a pretty big laugh out of that. So I know that payback will come at some point. I feel sure about that.
Yeah.
So
Johnson's got it all figured out.
with that, we will move to our proclamations and resolutions, and I see, Commissioner Fickus, that you have a resolution.
Yes, I have a resolution that I'm going to present Sunday. So it's to Westlake Academy's first graduating class. And Westlake Academy is the first and only municipally owned charter school in the state of Texas. So I would move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have some certificates of appreciation.
I have 3 certificates of appreciation for our Employee Appreciation Day. And if we could go ahead and I'll move approval of all 3 of these.
Okay.
And the first one I know will not be
Second.
here. Motion and a second, okay. The first one, Margie Thomas will not be here, but For 5-Star Correction Services, we have Anthony Shanklin, Director of Food Services at Tarrant County Jail. And the third one, the credit union, is Lily New Farmer, President, CEO of the Tarrant County Credit Union. So if we could vote on this, and I'll go on and present the two of them at one time.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Y'all come on down.
Mr. Shanklin here? Apparently not. We did these plaques too, and I personally really appreciate what you do for the employees of this county. Tim Curry and I tried to finance this for a while, and y'all came to our rescue, and we really appreciate it. Glad to do it. Thank you very much, and any comments you have. Sure.
Never shy away from the mic. Good morning,
Good morning.
Morning.
Judge and Commissioners. Very quickly, I think I just won't touch it. Really, it's our pleasure to be able to sponsor this event again this year. It is, after all, the continued support that the employees of Tarrant County show their credit union and the continued support of this court, a big part of why the credit union is the success it is today. So it is absolutely our honor and our pleasure to be able to sponsor this, and we look forward to doing it again for many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'd very much appreciate your doing this and on a continued basis, and we look forward to you doing it for years. Gary, Commissioner Pickus?
Thank you. Also, I want to thank all of our employees that participated Saturday in our Life Gift Second Chance Run for organ donations. We had a spectacular turnout. It was like a sea of red T-shirts, and we had close to 200 from the county and other friends who joined us. So it was a great day for our employees and for a great cause. So thank all of you, and really appreciate it. Thank you.
And since you mentioned red, I will again remind everybody that on June the 23rd, we're going to have Ranger Red Day throughout the county, and we're going to hopefully all of us go out to the ballpark that evening, and we're going to try to encourage the cities to join us in this effort. We're going to talk with the Mayor's Council, and so begin to talk with your friends and family, and let's see if we can't, not only at the ballpark, but maybe even that day at work, all wear as much red as we can and really show our enthusiasm for Texas Rangers, who I believe are in first place.
By 2.5 games.
By 2.5 games, probably the largest margin of being in first place in a long time. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you had a...
Yes, if you would, Your Honor. Debbie Reynolds Hazen served on our historical commission for over 20 years. Debbie lost her life on Friday, this past Friday, and I wanted to express my sympathy to her family and ask that we adjourn today's court proceedings in her honor.
If y'all please make note of that, and we'll certainly do that. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Your Honor, members of the court, on the administrator's section, item A1, we're requesting that the Commissioners Court approve an exception to the county's travel policy for the county clerk. This will allow Ms. Henderson to attend the County District Clerks Association meeting, which will be held in Amarillo in June of this year. Also, I might note that Ms. Henderson has been nominated as County Clerk of the Year by the Area 5 clerks.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Tidwell? Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Our first item for the court's consideration this morning is to receive and file the quarterly investment report for the quarter ended March 31st, 2010.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the second item then is to actually approve the Tarrant County investment policy itself. The Public Funds Investment Act requires that the policy be updated, reviewed and updated as appropriate and presented to the governing body on an annual basis. The only change in this policy is on the first page as far as some of the broker-dealers that we utilize. The rest of the strategy and items remain the same. In regards to how we invest funds and our interest earnings, after the budget or as part of the budget process, as the court makes some decisions on funding and maybe uses of funding, then we will see if we can go back out longer. Pools this morning are paying 20 basis points or 0.2%. But if we went out 2 years, Ron tells me we'd get a whopping 1%. So there's not a lot of incentive for going out long, particularly when the money might be needed for other items, or if the economy changes and our crystal ball not very clear and all of a sudden interest were to go up and we're sitting there with a 2-year security at 1%, and that wouldn't look good either. So
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Wright?
Normally Marvin does this, and he will be back next week. But we need to have the legal services contract between Tarrant County, the District Attorney's Office, and the Hospital District approved by the court. We're requesting that at this time.
I only have one question on that. Why are we starting this contract on June 1 instead of the budget year? Is there a reason for that?
It was the hospital district's request when the legal services were first divided between the Adams firm and us, and it was changed. There's a whole schedule of when we submit the post, they do it. We start this in February, just do it, and that was the decision back at that time, that we just followed it along through that process.
Okay, I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rayburn? Yep. Come on down.
Good morning.
How are you?
Fine. I'm here to ask the court to canvass the local option election that was held on May 8th for the city of Colleyville.
Move approval of the canvass.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The second item is consideration to require the city of Colleyville to reimburse Tarrant County for conducting the local option election on May 8th.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Glenn?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have 3 items for the court this morning. The first item, we're asking the court to receive and file the personnel agenda.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Second item, we're asking the court to approve amendment number 7 to the senior supplement plan group health insurance policy, and amendment number 4 to the Medicare Advantage plan group health services agreement with Pacific Care. And basically, these 2 amendments accomplish just a few things. One, we want to address United Healthcare's acquisition of Pacific Care, which has been an ongoing process. And then we, of course, want to outline the rates for 2010. These amendments have been reviewed by legal counsel.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our third and final item, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits for Probate Court 2. Probate Court 2's incumbent, their attorney investigator, will be leaving county service at the end of this month with 240 vacation hours. The judge is asking for a waiver effective June 1st. We're looking at a fiscal impact, including salary savings, of approximately $7,100, excluding fringe benefits.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Commissioner Johnson, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
I do, Your Honor, with the City of River Oaks. Where'd the DA go?
He left.
After it's been approved, I'll move approval of item 9N1, A and B.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Appointments.
In your absence, we made an appointment, Hospital District Board, last week, the DO that you and I had discussed previously.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, there being no appointments, then you have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims, including the addendum. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Mays.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have two items to bring to the court this morning. The first concerns the monthly update from the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the court at this time.
Judge and court members, thank you all so much. I wanted to go over a couple of points with you. First of all, on May 25th, which will be a busy day for JPS, we have the opening of our 18th school-based health center, and that's in Everman. And compliments to Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Brooks and the school district out in Everman, because they did a lot of work on this one. And that is a school-based health center that we feel will be of significant impact to the community. Also, to remind you all, we've had about 45,000 children go through our school-based health centers in the last year. That's 45,000 kids, I would argue to you, may not be receiving health care. And that's a great situation on the preventative care side of health care. I'm very, very proud of that. So on May 25th, you all have all received invitations, but on May 25th at 5 o'clock, we'll be opening up that new school-based center. Also would like to thank you in appointing those two board members. That was very helpful to us. Those board members now round out everybody on the board, and it's a huge benefit to us to have a good working team, and I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for the effort that you put in selecting those, the process, and trying to find somebody that will be a significant benefit to the health community and to our community at large. It's a big benefit to us. Also want to let you know that on May 25th, we're going to start taking a lead from you all and your Mayor's Council. We're going to start a new initiative at JPS. We have asked and sent out an invitation to all the mayors in Tarrant County. And what we're asking them to do is come in for a luncheon and learn a little bit about some of the situations that we face at JPS. This is not a PR attempt. This is an attempt to let them know of what we're getting in through our front door, what it means to deliver health care throughout the community. So we've invited every mayor. Those of you who have relationships with mayors, if you would, remind them, but on May 25th, we'll be having that luncheon. Also want to publicly thank Carolyn Sims, who's been making a lot of phone calls. Commissioner, in your district, you have obviously a large concentration of smaller cities, and we're trying to make sure that we get those. But every one of you and your precinct administration, others are of benefit to that. We've sent invitations out to everyone. So far, the response has been pretty good. I know it's hard in the middle of the day for a mayor to take time off to come to JPS. But what we'll do is we'll bring in some of our leaders. We'll bring in our trauma team, let them know, and get them in. We plan to follow this up with having all of our school boards and school superintendents come by for the same type luncheon. And we plan to follow that up with Chamber of Commerce presidents and Chamber of Commerce executive directors and give them all. It's our attempt to communicate to the community how and where we're spending their tax dollars.
Excellent idea.
Well, and again, it's not a PR effort. It's not to come in and say, look at all the bells and whistles at JPS and how great we are. It is a way to tell them how we spend their money, and it's a way to tell them things that we're trying to fix, and it's things that we're telling them we're doing because their constituents, just as ours, are going to use our services, and we want them to know. We also want them to have the ability to pick up the phone and call. When they have an issue or when they have something, they want to make sure it stays the way that it is. Also, we received a very complimentary phone call from the Commissioner of Health and Human Services in Texas, Commissioner Tom Cease. And Commissioner Cease has asked us at JPS to provide a briefing for him on the impact of the health care legislation at the national level. There are, as you well know, a lot of unanswered questions in that piece of legislation, and they'll be looking to public hospitals and networks like ours to try to figure out what some of those answers are. So we are providing him a conference tomorrow. We're going to break some new technology by doing it on a webinar. We all as a team will sit in a room. His team will sit in the room in Austin, and we'll have live dialogue between them on a webinar. My technical folks contend after 5 dry runs that it works. If we say hello, Commissioner, and the screen goes white, I will be concerned, just as I will judge with your conference that we'll be having here fairly shortly.
Yeah,
but ours goes first, and I appreciate the enthusiasm in your voice. We will have ours first and see how it goes. The last thing I wanted to do is do something a little bit different today. We had a board retreat, and again, thank you to the court in allowing those 2 board members to come on board. And compliments to them. They were appointed, one was appointed on Tuesday, came to the board meeting on Thursday, and came to a 2-day retreat. Dr. Lowry came to a retreat on Friday and Saturday and did not whimper once. I'm not sure he knew of that time commitment at first, but I like to have a baptism of fire. It breaks him in well. So that was a wonderful thing, and what I've had for today is to have our board chair, Scott Fisher, come up and just tell you just a couple minutes about the board retreat. And before he comes up, I'd like to publicly thank G.K. Manius. I give him a lot of grief, but G.K. has worked on a task force attempt with our chief financial officer to understand the impact of what's happening with taxes and tax revenues, particularly from the commercial side. So my compliments to you and your efforts to help us try to understand what that is. And I'm not asking for anything after that. It's just a compliment.
Thank you, Bruce.
Just one more word about the other new board member who was sworn in on Thursday and had to bury his mother-in-law on Friday.
Yeah, that was and thanks for bringing that up. That was a tough situation. He came to the board meeting on Thursday, was very participatory. He had a dinner with Scott Fisher and I the 2 nights before to get an understanding of what was involved, and then came to the board retreat on Saturday. Phenomenal 2 appointments you all have made. Couldn't thank you all enough.
That would be Charlie Powell.
Right.
Good morning, Judge.
Good morning.
I want to thank you for your support and participation in the surveys that were sent to you. We utilized those surveys, and then the interview information that you provided to us. We did an internal survey of all of our board members. On our self-assessment, we did a survey of relationship between the Medical Executive Committee and the board. We did a survey of all of our community groups in the board, and just to assess board effectiveness. We took that very seriously. We spent 2 days in retreat and really worked hard at defining what this board is supposed to look like. I think from a standpoint of the future, you now have a board that's going to be consistent for the next really 8 years with only 2 more replacements to take place. And so it is the board of the future. We've got some major issues that we're dealing with related to our IT transition and then the impact of health care. So we want to be responsible to you, the taxpayers, and to the hospital district itself. Thank you for what you do and for the trust that you've placed in each one of us.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate your work.
Scott, I just want to reiterate, as I've said a bunch of times, about these health IT systems. It doesn't make any sense for every hospital in town to adopt a health IT system without some thought about how they're going to communicate with each other. So I hope that we're being collaborative in as we go forward and buy our health IT system.
Yes, sir. That's my fear. My concern is that when we make that investment, that it be something that over the course of the next 10 years, we look back and say that was a very wise decision that benefits the entire county, not just JPS.
Members of the court, we have one
Wait a
final
minute,
item.
I want to ask Robert a couple other things. I guess just a couple of comments. One, I've been hearing the radio spots on the trauma, level 1 trauma, and I thought those have been good spots. I think they've been very informative, and they do speak to the fact that we do have the only level 1 trauma emergency room in the county, and I feel like those have been very effective from that standpoint. And I go back to what Scott just referenced, and then also what Commissioner Brooks said. I hope that there is some way that all of these medical records that everybody is generating has some way to come together, and you don't have to look at, okay, I've got 10 medical records spread between doctors' offices, hospitals, Google, and wherever, and so that it becomes an ordeal for anybody to try to figure out, well, I have to go 3 different places to find prescriptions and have to go 3 different places to, or however many places. So, I know that that's something you're looking at. And I guess the last thing that I would just say is kind of as you as a board are also beginning to look at this, and as we do get a clearer idea of what healthcare reform is going to mean, is to look as much as possible, and I know y'all are in the middle of your budget right now, but to begin to look for the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years, where we can really take that strategic plan out for a period of years and see what the ramifications are operationally as well as from a capital standpoint going forward. I'm not sure any of us know enough about what healthcare reform is going to mean or what the ramifications are going to be at this point, pro or con from that perspective. But I hope that we really begin to try to do some strategic planning out and get an idea of where we are. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate the board, who I know gives a great deal of time and effort to this.
A couple of quick comments. The days are gone where JPS will start advertising things that everybody else in town offers and put JPS as a competitive role. It's not our purpose, and that's not what we want to do. There is an informative role that we should be doing, and we've done that through our charity care program in Connection, and we're doing it through Level 1. That's what our effort is going to be. So thank you for your kind words on that effort. We've also tried to get out into the community a lot more with our Level 1. In fact, I was just in Grapevine the other day talking about that to Commissioner Fickus's Rotary Club, which they wanted to remind him that he was absent from. So you owe them one. The other thing is we have taken on an electronic medical record that you will now have in Tarrant County, the 2 largest emergency rooms on the same system, and that will be a plus. It appears, and we're in the contract situation with them, but we will, in all likelihood, be accepting the EPIC program, which is the same one that THR has accepted as well, the same one that Parkland has. It's the largest, and it's probably better for us than to be the outlier and the Lone Ranger on an electronic medical record. So we're probably in a little bit better shape for having those records in one ability for you to transcend different health organizations. The other thing is, when you look at healthcare reform, one of the things that speaks loudly in healthcare reform is the preventative aspect, the need for primary care physicians. One of the things that you've got in JPS that is a benefit as we sort of look at the crystal ball of what that is with the largest family medicine residency program in the nation, we are training more preventative care, primary care docs than anybody else. So from that standpoint, to have a strong residency program and try to figure out how you mold that in, JPS may well be in a good position. What we don't know is what the funding levels will be and what pea and what shell they're coming out of. So that's going to be hard to figure out as we do shifting of monies. But that's why we're having those upfront talks with Commissioner Cease. And then the last thing I wanted to mention to you all is we will be setting up schedules with you all, although it's not been released yet because it hasn't been totally finished, but we now have our needs assessment study It was a study that you all have heard about, and it looks at the needs of Tarrant County. It emanated out of some concerns in Arlington, but it is a needs assessment for the entire county. And we've broken that down per your precinct, tried to get it to the lowest level we could. The report is not out. It will be presented at our June board meeting, but we'd like to provide you as much of a briefing as we possibly can so you know the impacts of what it means from your constituency and where the needs are. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Robert.
Your Honor, members of the court, we have one final item to bring to you this morning. This concerns an update on the 2006 Capital Improvements Program. Mr. Phillips is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd like to update you on 3 of the building projects that are included in the 2006 Capital Improvement Program. First, the jail. The dirt started flying on the jail project site last week. The excavation contractor is in the process of digging down approximately 20 feet into the dirt and limestone rock to make the basement. After that, a soil retention system will be installed around the perimeter walls to keep the rock and the dirt from falling back in the hole. Once that's done, the plumbing contractor will start trenching into the dirt floor to run his underground plumbing and such. And right after that, we'll drill 138 holes in the ground, approximately 20 feet deep each, and for the piers, and then we fill with steel and concrete, and hopefully will hold up the building just fine.
I wish you said that with a little bit more confidence. It's kind of like back to what Robert said about my feeling about this video conferencing thing.
Some of these piers are 36 inches in diameter. They're fairly substantial, so I have full confidence the building won't move. Once the piers are complete, they'll install a rainwater drainage system around attach it to the new retention walls and to the floor, and it'll be a subsurface collection system, and all that water from the subsurface runoff and leaks in the pipes and such will come into a sump, and when the building's operating, it will be pumped out into the stormwater system. All that I just mentioned should be complete in August. In August, they should start pouring the concrete for the walls and floors, which will be about 12,000 cubic yards of concrete for this project. On to the medical examiner's office. Excavation's about 90% complete. They'll be drilling 72 piers for that project, and they'll have to go down about 45 feet to hit the limestone strata. So it's a lot more depth regarding the pier length there. On to the civil courts building. Schematic design meetings have been taking place over the last several weeks with the architects, my department, the user groups, and the civil courts building committee. They are in the process of finalizing floor plans that hopefully provide the best path to travel for the public visitors, also the highest operating efficiency for the courts and other departments in the building, and also provide a high level of security for all in the building. The next order of business is there's a meeting coming on Thursday, and then one of their goals for the schematic design meeting is to finalize the interior courtroom design so our carpenters can go build a full-size mock-up. And we plan to build that mock-up at our Records Management Center at the Mercantile Business Center in North Fort Worth. Now, the committee is looking at 2 options. One option would put the bench in the middle of the wall, the back wall of the courtroom, and the other option is put it in the corner. And might provide more space in the overall courtroom and the litigant well and such, but they are looking at options. We'll build the mock-up in such a fashion it'll be modular and they can make a decision on how they'd like to do it, and we'll present that option back to you. And that's all I have this morning.
I guess one other additional comment I would make. I know at the meeting on Thursday, or at the last meeting, there was a presentation by one of the attorneys with regards to the exterior look finishes of the building. And the drawings that we have had passed out to us were conceptual drawings. And it made the statement that here is the conceptual phase of the deal, and that during the schematic phase, which is what we're in right now, the colors and the materials for the exterior would be, that's when that selection would occur. And so as that process is beginning, and that process is supposed to be complete by, I believe, the end of August, first part of September.
Yes.
So what I think is occurring now is the kind of the normal course of events there's going to begin a discussion about what that exterior is going to look like, materials, the colors, and the details. Having learned a valuable lesson from our neighbors to the north and a little bit to the east, I think the color phase and the exact materials is an extremely critical part of the deal. I know that part of that is also to go to downtown, the Downtown Review Committee. As we had suggested that the college might do, and I hope that we will do, is that we'll certainly let folks know that the process is ongoing, give them an opportunity to make comments about the look of the building, the materials, where we're going with the deal, and then ultimately it'll come to us to make a final selection. I would hope that as we go forward that the architects give us a couple of alternatives and not one that, okay, here it is, we've got 2 weeks. And I say all that to say we're beginning the process now. The process ends in late August or September, so I would encourage each of us to be as involved or as uninvolved as you'd like to be in that process, but hopefully not wait until the week before the vote, and that vote's, you say, if we don't approve this, then we're going to have to delay the project, because that's the whole goal that we're trying to avoid and push everybody forward on, to make sure, if we can, that we cut down the period that it's going to take us to get to bids, not that we lengthen it out. So I think that move from conceptual to schematic is just now in the beginning process. It's my understanding that there's going to actually be a presentation Thursday at the committee meeting by one of the attorneys.
Yes, there's no question that committee is engaged, and now they're getting emotionally involved in the building, and that's a very good thing. And there's been comments from some of the committee members about the traditional and modern looks of an exterior of a courts facility, and there's, of course, different opinions. And what was presented to you on September 29th of last year, this particular courts facility had at a concept level had a concave west wall. And there's some would argue that's not as traditional as we would like, and it may be, and there's other court facilities with curved walls out there that probably look very traditional. However, we're going to work through that this Thursday and get their comments from the committee members and others. And we hope to bring back to you in 30 days or 45 days, maybe another revisit that exterior geometry.
And again, I want to say that I don't, because I don't want the architects to feel like we're making any, I think this is the process they said would occur, and
yes,
we're in that process. And, so I think a lot of it has to do with what the materials look like as to whether it looks traditional or not. If you look at the conceptual drawing, you see big blocks of something that look to be white. We thought that building across the street was going to be something other than what it is.
Well, I hope we don't try to match that building.
I don't think that's the intent, but I think that's where we want to, what I'm hopeful of is that well before we get to the point to where we have a week or two to make a decision without holding up the progress of the building, that we've seen a lot of different alternatives, or one that we all feel is comfortable, and that the public, to some extent, certainly has an opportunity to make comments. Again, it's the decision of the court that will ultimately decide what that building outside and inside looks like.
It's going to be important to the schedule and to the group that we bring it to you early, because the way the geometry of that building lays out, it affects the interior layouts and floor plans. So we certainly need to do that in short order.
And I guess I'll make one other comment, and this is just my opinion on the deal, is that we're pretty far along on the interior. If there's decisions made with regards to what the material is or what the look of the outside is, if it affects the interior, then we're talking about we're already talking about a major redo, which I don't think, at least from my perspective, that I could support, because I know that this committee, the judges, the attorneys, have all spent a lot of time talking about the placement of the courtrooms and the jury. And I know that's still ongoing,
Yes.
but they're well down that road. And so to talk about something that would affect at least three sides of that building would impact a lot of the work that's already been done.
Let us try to bring you something back in late June and take a look at it.
Can I make a comment? This is going to, did you say Fort Worth, Inc.? Who is
No, there's a downtown review committee.
Okay. Here's my, I guess, as a commissioner that's going to make the decisions or be part of the group, I certainly assume that that's going to come to us prior to going to them.
Absolutely. It's got to.
We're not going to, is that correct?
It has to come to us first.
Well, let me ask this question. And I just know that the jail went to the downtown review committee, and I think it went to them, I think you're right, I think it went to them subsequent to that. But all I'm saying is that we're in the phase right now where those types of decisions on materials and stuff are being discussed.
Judge, we're not talking about materials yet. We're just talking about the massing of the building, whether or not it's a rectangle or not, and if it's got a curved wall or not. And that's generally, the comments have been generated around the angle of that west wall.
David, when you brought this to us 4 or 5 months ago,
Yes, sir.
you brought in designs, a straight wall and a curved wall. And we as a court on that day selected the curved wall.
Yes, sir.
Okay, to move forward, to take it to the next step. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
I'd just like for the judge to reiterate a statement that he made just a few moments ago, that it's this court's decision.
Right.
What's going to happen over there. We got a bunch of committees, and they all meeting, and they operating and doing their things, but it's this court's decision.
They're certainly excited about having the opportunity to participate in the design, and I think they're certainly
I'm
fired up.
excited to have them participate.
And I don't want to go too far without beginning to see colors, because, or how those colors are. We know the family law, I think everybody is very pleased with the family law building. But in addition to seeing granite, in addition to seeing the stone, in addition to seeing the brick, it's also how those bricks are laid out and form columns and form things around. So I'm hopeful that we're not going to again, or we're not again, but that we're not going to wait again till the last minute to see colors and to see materials. So I hope that we're not too far from beginning to see more detail of that exterior.
We'll try to get...
One last thought. We went through a charrette with different architectural firms. David Swartz has done a number of our buildings, or at least one significant building and significant buildings throughout this area. This court did not select him to do this project. I don't think it should be reasonable to expect the architects that we selected to bring in a building that would be in the style of a David Swartz building. That's not who we hired.
Agreed.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
That's my comment.
I have direction.
Good.
Thank you.
Your Honor, that's all we have at this time.
At this time, we will remember to adjourn the court. At this time, we will recess and our open session and proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted. I didn't realize it was going to be one of those.
Oh. Yeah,
Ready to go?
Sure I did.
Having returned from closed session and there being no business, we are adjourned, and we're going to remember adjourning.
I would have thought somebody would have sent me a check or something.
Well, they'll